be critically presenting my views on whether critical thinking is a vital skill to HR managers today. Critical thinking is a specific set of methods targeted to explore evidence in a certain way. In 1987, Ennis identified a number of abilities related to critical thinking. These most prominently included the ability to think reasonably and reflect specifically. When being sceptical in critical thinking, it requires respectful doubt, to not believe part of the story until the whole picture has been revealed. Cottrell 2005 notes that critical thinking qualities include good attention, good ability to respond to the appropriate parts of a message, and skills of analysis that can be applied to a variety of situations. The US Department of Labour defined critical thinking as being fundamental to the workplace, with skills including problem-solving, decision-making, and planning and risk management. They also claim that the skill is in short supply. A 2006 study conducted by the Conference Board showed that critical thinking was one of the most principal skills needed for job success and was severely absent in the workforce. Gamble-Gibbs states that critical thinking provides an accurate account, opposed to an inaccurate account, which can describe behaviour unassociated to the context, and choosing the wrong form of intervention method or removing intervention too early. Some of the roles of human resource managers are planning labour needs, recruiting job candidates, providing training, disciplining individuals, and motivating employees. HRM underlines the belief that people really make a difference. Only people or employees, among other resources, have the capacity to generate value. Having established the meaning of critical thinking and aspects required by HR managers in their role, the two can now be placed together to see how critical thinking may be a vital skill for them to use today. Critical thinking skills include having good attention. This can easily be seen as a valuable skill to HR managers. As the title of their job, human, they constantly deal with people, which means they're able to sufficiently listen to workers' problems without missing parts of vital information or making them feel unimportant by not listening. Lucia states that businesses are competing in continually diversifying and expanding internet environment. Critical thinking is pivotal to solving problems and resolving conflict. One fundamental aspect of human resources is the ability to resolve conflict between co-workers. And obviously, problem solving is also a large element, as there are a number of problems encountered in HR, such as training problems or problems between co-workers. There are a number of more specialised jobs in HR which require critical thinking. An example of this would be an employee relations specialist. Their job is to decide whether, due to allegations, an employee should be terminated or suspended. This requires a sufficient amount of critical thinking to take on board relevant information before coming to a logical conclusion on the result of the employee. The result must also be analysed to see the effects on both the employee and the company. Success in today's businesses is derived from solving problems and making the right decisions. The failures of many large corporations such as Blockbuster are reminders of the results of poor decision-making, when management makes bad decisions and fails thereafter to reflect on the impact of their decisions. Overall, it seems, critical thinking is a valuable skill to HR managers. On the other hand, there are a number of websites listing the most desirable skill qualities of HR employees. However, none of these lists states critical thinking, although many of the lists contain aspects of critical thinking. So are employees looking for certain elements of critical thinking, and if the employees have those characteristics, is that good enough? And therefore critical thinking as a whole is not a vital skill. At the same time, critical thinking is a very broad sense. Someone may be very good at one aspect of critical thinking but not the other. And so the vital part of critical thinking the employees want, the employee may not have, but as a general sense they have critical thinking. So does this mean critical thinking is a skill HR employees need, or do they need aspects of that skill? And therefore potentially they may not need the skill at all. It is also the application of the use of critical thinking. For example, decision-making. An HR manager may have very good decision-making skills in regard to recruitment, but in regards to training they may not be very good. So are they specialised critical thinkers, or again do they just have aspects of this skill? The question asks, is critical thinking a vital skill to HR managers today? The ambiguity of the question could also suggest, is it a vital skill for them to be aware of, a vital skill for them to seek? Is it a vital skill for HR managers to have in their workforce? The role of HR is to hire the right person for their job. As stated by numerous employees, critical thinking is a very valuable skill in today's society. With employees dealing with more work, they need to be able to identify what information is relevant. Overall, employees place the greatest weight on employee adaptability and critical thinking skills. Employees and HR professionals reported that thinking skills, problem-solving skills, flexibility and adaptability were amongst the greatest importance now compared to the past. It could therefore be seen that critical thinking is a vital skill to seek out. Good employees are ones who can focus on relevant information and make decisions, set priorities and ask the right questions. All of these skills define a critical thinker. Therefore, organisations can create better workforces by hiring the right people. Not only should HR in itself, it seems, be critical thinkers, but they should also hire critical thinkers to make a better overall workforce environment. However, it cannot be seen in a CV or an interview if someone is a critical thinker. Therefore, companies are starting to use assessments to help them measure it. Is critical thinking really a skill we require? Is it vital? Critical thinking is only a recent concept which in itself does not actually have any defined meaning of what precisely it is or how you have it, and companies prior to its establishment have survived without it. Critical thinking also seems to give the impression that the result will be as predicted and has a low risk rate by calculating everything through. However, the definition of entrepreneur is risk taker, and it's well known that in some circumstances being risky pays off in the long run, even though if you critically thought the idea through, it would seem the outcome is unfavourable. Although this is talking about entrepreneurs, it can be applied to HR. Critical thinking possibly shouldn't be seen as a vital skill, as it seems everyone would think logically, and it would prevent new ideas from sprouting or rewardable risk-taking. The Oxford Dictionary defines the word skill as training a worker to do a particular task. Therefore, the question suggests that critical thinking can be taught. Some authors, such as Mayer, argue it is a skill which can be taught. There are organisations which provide training to help improve and develop critical thinking skills, but they do not teach it from scratch. Mayer suggests that when reading about critical thinking, the reader should gain skills and learn to apply the skills acquired to issues they are confronted with. However, McPeck argues that books and articles which teach critical thinking largely focus upon logic and misconceptions. The authors therefore believe that all readers already have some form of logic and the ability to identify misconceptions. Therefore, a reader is not already novice critical thinkers with their skills already inbuilt, and therefore it can't be taught but merely developed and built upon. As seen from organisations merely developing critical thinking and they don't teach it. One aspect of critical thinking is being sceptical, but some people are more naturally sceptical whilst others find it easier to be trusting. Again, these seem to point towards critical thinking being less teachable when some are naturally gifted and others may never be that sceptical or trusting. These differences may be because of past experience or personality traits. So do you gain critical thinking through life rather than learning it? However, Cottrell points out that those who are more trusting can use methods to enable them to doubt constructively. It seems unclear as to whether it can be successfully taught or not, or if those being taught already have the skill but it's simply just being further developed. The Oxford Dictionary defines the word vital as absolutely necessary. However, there are some aspects of HR managers' job that may not require critical thinking skills, such as hiring. Although you need the right person, there are HR managers which will have a list of what they want and they will hire a person who fits that criteria. Little critical thinking is required. Not only this, but HR managers can specialise in this, meaning critical thinking would not be a fundamental aspect of their job. On the other hand, a large part of an HR manager's work will be to come up with strategies to motivate their employees. They will need to think of the impact of these strategies will have, which requires critical thinking, and for that aspect of HR, it can arguably be said that critical thinking is vital in order not to waste money or to motivate employees with the wrong scheme. Overall, it seems a balanced argument. It seems there is not an exact definition of a critical thinker one can fall under. And as previously explained, a person can have critical thinking in one situation, but may be unable to apply it to another. On the other hand, the benefits from critical thinking seem very valuable to HR managers to have or for them to recruit. The question is hard to draw a logical conclusion from, as it is not decided whether critical thinking is something that can be acquired or whether it's a natural trait that some have and others don't. The term vital is also misleading. Is critical thinking an absolute must with no exceptions? Having analysed and discussed the question, it seems a set answer cannot be drawn, due to the ambiguous nature. Once there is more clarification into whether it's a skill or the precise meaning of critical thinking in relation to HR, then a sufficient answer could be provided.